Un tātad turpinam ar mūsu nākamo lektoru. Anna Okkonen no ProAgria, pētniece, un mums pastāstīs par Somijas pieredzi šajā projektā. Un ceru dalīsies arī ar interesantām atziņām, ko tad Somi ir izmēģinājuši. Anna, floor is yours, please.
Okay, I have no idea what you said, but I fully agree. So let's start. All right. All right, let's adjust this one. Right. Okay, that should be good. All right, labdien visiem. Yes, all right, very good. A little applaud maybe, yeah? That's the modest. You can do better, right? Yeah. Very good. Okay, we'll get started. So, hello everyone. My name is Anna. So I work in this organization. So you can use the pointer, but it doesn't show here. Now I get it. Okay, it doesn't matter. We'll manage. So I work in this organization called ProAgria. It's an advisory organization in Finland, so providing different kind of services for farmers in whole Finland.
Labdien, mani sauc Anna Okkonen, es strādāju organizācijā, kas saucās ProAgria, kas pēc savas būtības ir konsultācija kompānija, kas piedāvā saimniekiem dažādus pakalpojumus.
Right, and where I work is in this western part of Finland, which is marked in color green.
Un es tieši strādāju Somijas dienvidu rietumu daļā, kas ir iezīmēta ar zaļo.
And in this sustainable silage project, I work as a project manager, so basically coordinating all the activities, including the pilot farm activities at the farms.
Un šajā projektā ilgtspējīga skābarība, es biju projekta vadītāja, kas koordinē visas aktivitātes, visas darbības saistībā ar projektu un pilotu saimniecībām.
Obviously in cooperation with our agriculture experts.
Un arī kopumā sadarbībā ar lauksaimniecības ekspertiem.
Right, but today, if you allow me, so I'm going to share you some experiences from our pilot farms, but I'm going to start with a little introduction of Finnish silage making.
Es pastāstīšu par pieredzi no mūsu pilotsaimniecībām, bet pavisam iesākumā gribu sākt par skābarību Somijā.
It's easier to understand what's happening at the pilot farms when we know a little bit about the big picture of Finnish silage production.
Tāpēc sākumā ar lielāku bildi un pēc tam sīkāk par skābarību Somijā.
Right, but I love to make comparisons, so I made a little comparison between Latvia and Finland. I got some figures from Raimonds, so let's compare a little bit these two countries.
Tā kā mums patīk salīdzināt, es mēģināju salikt datus no Latvijas, ko man atsūtīja Raimonds, salīdzināt ar Somijas datiem.
So first we have the farming area in both countries.
Pirmais skaitlis ir apsaimniekotā platība.
And you can see in Finland it's only 7.5% of the total land area because we have so many forests.
Somijā lauksaimniecības platība ir tikai 7,5% un pārējais mums ir meži.
Then you have a total silage area, total silage output, and the last one, the average yield.
Jūs redzat kopējo platību, kas ir skābarībai un saražoto skābarību un arī skābarības ražu.
So you can see that in Finland the average yield 18 tons per hectare. If you convert it to dry matter, it's about 6 tons of dry matter per hectare.
Somijā kopumā 18 tonnas no hektāra, tas ir skābarība, un ja to pārvēršam sausnā, tad sanāks 6 tonnas sausnas no hektāra.
But that's why I want to always show that map so you can really see Finland is a long country with very different growing conditions. So it's only an average. So the good farmer will make that 10 tons of dry matter in our region, western part of Finland, for example.
Un tāpēc es vienmēr cenšos parādīt, ka Somija ir ļoti liela un mums ir ļoti atšķirīgi saimniekošanas apstākļi. Tā kā vidējais ir vidējais, bet labākie saimnieki dienvidrietumu daļā iegūst arī 10 tonnas skābarības sausnes no hektāra gadā.
But you can see if you compare Latvia and Finland, you guys, you're making almost a double as we in yield, average yield.
Un vidējais, ja mēs salīdzinām Somiju un Latviju, tad ražība kopējā gandrīz 2 reizes lielāka.
And also you can see there that you're able to make almost half of our total silage output with a much smaller area.
Un daudz vairāk skābarības jūs saražojat no mazākas platības.
So my question is why? Hands up, who knows the answer?
Jautājums, kāpēc? Paceļam rokas.
Everybody? Are there some agriculture students present here?
Vai kādi lauksaimniecības studenti arī?
Hands up. Report yourself. One guy. Maybe we give 10 seconds for them and they will give us the answer. What is the answer for that? Why Latvia's yield is so much better than in Finland?
Kāpēc Latvijā lielāku ražu var dabūt no zāles nekā Somijā? Better soil.
Okay, anything else?
More sunny days.
More sunny days, lovely, yes. Right, yeah. What was that?
No reindeers.
No what?
No reindeers.
No reindeers, yes, sorry. Probably, yeah, they're eating all our grass. Yeah, that can be. Very good answers. I like that. Well, I suppose, that one answer relies to these. So obviously the growing season is a bit shorter in Finland.
Veģetācijas sezona ir īsāka Somijā.
And that results to the fact that we can't really grow corn.
Un mēs īsti nevaram izaudzēt kukurūzu.
And corn is, of course, giving much greater yield than grasslands.
Protams, kukurūza daudz lielāku ražu var iedot nekā zālaugi.
So definitely when we talk about silage in Finland, we talk about grass.
Un, ja mēs runājam Somijā par skābarību, tad mēs runājam par zāles skābarību.
So I'd like to share you this little table. It's from our biggest dairy, Valio.
Tagad neliela tabula, un tā ir no mūsu piena pārstrādātāja lielā Valio.
So 80% of milk that is produced in Finland is processed by Valio Dairy. 80% Somijā saražotā piena tika pārstrādāts Valio. And 80% of these Valio farmers are actively taking silage samples.
Un 80% no šiem Valio saimniekiem aktīvi ņem skābarības paraugus.
So Valio statistics give a very good perspective of the situation of whole Finland.
Tādēļ mums ir informācija, ļoti pamatota informācija par visu Somiju.
So here are, for example, a comparison of all the silage samples analyzed in 2023.
Šeit ir visu skābarības paraugu kopsavilkums, kas ir analizēti 23. gadā.
So you can see that 71% of all those samples were made of crass silages, only crass pieces in the silage.
Un 71% no šiem paraugiem, paraugus ir zāles skābarība.
23% were samples where silages were made of crass pieces and clovers.
23% tos gadījumu ir āboliņš plus stiepzāles.
And only 1.4% were alfalfa silages in Finland.
Un tikai 1,4% lucernas skābarība.
Then we had a couple of percentages of whole crop silages.
Tad mums ir tā saucamā pilngraudu skābarība.
And corn only 0.1% of all the silage samples.
Un kukurūzu skābarības paraugi ir tikai 0,1% no visiem skābarības paraugiem.
And Sudan grass even less, 0.03.
Un Sudāna zāle vēl mazāk.
So you can see it's very, very crass-based silage that we make in Finland.
Tā kā jūs redzat, pašos pamatos ir stiepzāles.
And if you want to see a little bit a longer-term trend here on the right-hand side.
Un tad, kad paskatāmies tajā grafikā pa labi,
So in brief, clovers, the use of clovers in silages with crasses has become a bit more popular.
Tad gadiem ejot ir pieaugusi āboliņa izmantošana maisījumos.
But the others there on the top of that chart, there is this other colors there. It's Sudan grass, corn, alfalfa. There you can see that there is a trend that it's increasing, but it's really changing from year to year.
Un pašā augšā tajā grafikā stabiņos jūs redzat citas krāsas, tās ir citu veidu skābarības, kas ir lucerna, Sudānas zāle un vēl citas, kas gadu no gada variē, bet kopumā viņa īpatsvars palielinās.
It's probably because farmers want to try, they try maize, for example, or corn, but it goes well 1 year, but then it's the second year coming, the frost is coming too early, everything is fucked up, and they give up, and then they try a couple of years maybe later. So it's varying.
Tā kā ir saimnieki, kas, piemēram, pamēģina kukurūzu audzēt skābarībā, vienu gadu izdodas, citu gadu atkal atnāk salna un nokož visu kukurūzu, tad zemnieks ir bēdīgs un mēģina atkal, pēc dažiem gadiem atkal varbūt mēģina.
Another characteristic of Finnish silage making is definitely that we love to use multi-species grass mixtures.
Un vēl viena īpatnība Somijā, ka zemnieki audzē dažādu stiepzaļu sugu maisījumus.
But it hasn't always been like that. So 20 years ago, this would have been our typical mixture, 80% of Timothy, 20% of meadow fescue.
Iepriekšējos gados populāri ir bija šādi maisījumi 80% timotiņš un 20% pļavas auzene.
But nowadays, 20 years later, our typical mixture would look a little bit like that. These are not exact percentages, but you can get an idea. So I just, about 45% Timothy, then a fescue is about 20%, 20% of perennial ryegrass, and then clovers.
Bet šobrīd jūs redzat, ka tas sugu maisījums ir bagātinājies. Joprojām pati galvenā stiepzāle ir timotiņš, kas veido 45%, 20% ir auzenes, 20% ir airenes, un tad ir āboliņi un citi.
And basically the reason why we like to use these multi-species mixtures is risk management, so kind of minimizing the risks.
Un tas iemesls, kāpēc mēs liekam kopā šīs dažādās stiepzaļu sugas un citas sugas, ir mazināt riskus.
For example, a winter damage risk decreases when we have several different kind of species in the mixture.
Samazināt ziemas bojājumus.
And of course, this is important for us in Finland because winter can be a bit rough for the grass species.
Un tas ir normāli, jo Somijā ziemas var būt diezgan bargas.
But definitely also why we have these multi-species mixtures is that we want good density for the grasslands. And this way the density creates high yields, in our opinion.
Un mūsu ieskatā, kāpēc vēl mēs liekam šīs dažādās sugas kopā, jo mēs gribam dabūt lielāku blīvumu, un lielāks blīvums dod lielāku ražu.
Also better drought and wetness tolerance because of multi-species.
Un vairākas sugas kopā ir labāk, šis maisījums ir izturīgāks pret sausumu un pārmitriem apstākļiem.
And of course, when you have different species, you have different kind of rooting systems as well. So if you use legumes, you get biological nitrogen fixation.
Protams, arī sakņu sistēmas attīstība svarīga. Tauriņu zieži dod slāpekļa piesaisti.
And different kind of rooting systems, of course, is also good for the soil.
Un dažādas sakņu sistēmas no šiem zālājiem ir arī labvēlīgas augsnei.
So still nowadays the two most popular species, grass species that we use is Timothy and meadow fescue.
Un joprojām divas pašas populārākās sugas ir timotiņš un pļavas auzene.
But normally farmers have 4 to 8 different species in their grass mixtures when they're making silage.
Bet tad, kad gatavo skābarību, tad saimniekiem parasti ir, kad ir šajā maisījumā 4 līdz 8 dažādas zālaugu sugas.
In 2023, we made a survey for our discussion group farmers in Finland, which are the most popular species that you use in your silage mixtures.
Un 2023. gadā mēs veicām aptauju no mūsu tādas saimnieku grupas.
And I'm not going to repeat them, maybe you can translate it directly from there. These 5 ones.
Tātad, un aptaujas rezultātā mēs ieguvām šādus rezultātus. Tad timotiņš, pļavas audzene, niedru audzene, daudzgadīgā airene, kamolzāle, sarkanais āboliņš, bastardāboliņš, baltais āboliņš, lucerna, medicāgo, kas bija dzeltenā lucerna, cigoriņš un bromus, lāčauza.
Oh, lovely. Now, beware, I might start singing when I get a mic like this.
Es drīz sākšu dziedāt, ja man šitā iedod mikrofonu.
No, don't worry, I won't. But these are the 5 most popular species.
Tad jūs redzat pašas populārākās, kas ir ierāmētas.
So 5.4 species on average in a Finnish mixture.
Vidēji Somijā zālaugu maisījumā 5,4 sugas iekšā.
And you see alfalfa, 25% of the farmers have that, but in Western Finland, in our region, is even higher.
Kopumā lucerna ir, tur ir 2 rādītāji, viens ir kopēji Somijā, bet 42%, ja ņem vērā tikai Rietum Somiju.
And that's probably because the climate is more favorable in our region, so the lucerne, the alfalfa, has better chances to survive the winter.
Tas ir tādēļ, ka klimata dēļ šajā Somijas daļā ir labāks klimats un lucernai ir lielāks iespējas izdzīvot ziemu.
And also we've been starting to have more dry summers, so lucerne can be a good option for that, for drought tolerance.
Un tā kā mums arī ir sausums vasarā parādās kā problēma, tad arī lucerna šajos apstākļos labāk aug.
So very brief about grasslands in Western Finland. So we normally make 3 cuts.
Ja runājam par zālājiem Rietum Somijas daļā, tad parasti saimnieki nopļauj 3 pļāvumus.
Farmers have started to make the 4th cut as well, if depending on the year, because of the climate is definitely changing.
Daži saimnieki ir sākuši arī 4. pļāvumu pļaut, tas ir tādēļ, ka laikapstākļi, klimats mainās.
But just to give you perspective, it's still very, very rare. So if Valio analyzes about 25,000 silage samples per year, out of those about 30 or 40 samples are from the 4th cut. So it's really, really rare still in Finland.
Bet 4. pļāvums vēl joprojām ir reta parādība, tad ja no 25,000, ko Valio izanalizēs skābarības paraugus, tikai 30 līdz 40 no šiem paraugiem nāk no 4. pļāvuma.
And the average yield in our discussion group members in 2023 was a little bit less than 9 tons of dry matter per hectare. Little less than 9 tons of dry matter per hectare.
Un mūsu tajā pilotu grupā, kuru mēs aptaujājām, sausums raža no zālaugiem bija nedaudz zem 9 tonnām sausums ražas no hektāra.
The best yield I've heard is 13 tons of dry matter per hectare in our region.
Labākais rezultāts, ko es savā reģionā esmu dzirdējis, ir 13 tonnas sausnas ražas no hektāra.
So something maybe characteristic to our region as well is that, more unpredictable weather conditions, and definitely autumns have become longer.
Kas ar klimatu mūsu reģionā šajā ir, kā klimata laikapstākļi kļuvuši neparedzamāki un rudeņi garāki palikuši.
Yeah, so shorter winters and unsecure winters. You see these pictures from last winter in our region, in western part of Finland. This would normally be covered with snow, so this is not like normal.
Un jūs redzat šajās bildēs no iepriekšējās ziemas no mūsu reģiona, februārī parasti visu klāj sniegs, tā ka šis nav normāli.
So of course, when we talk about silage and grasslands, it forms a risk of ice damages.
Ja mēs runājam par skābrību un zālājiem, tad te ir risks, ka varētu būt salabojājumi.
Right, very briefly, another characteristic of Finnish silage making is a very, very rapid growth in the early summer.
Ļoti raksturīgi Somijā, ja runā par skābrību, ir raksturīgi, ka vasaras sākumā zāle aug ļoti, ļoti strauji.
So this is from our agricultural experts' grasslands, a trial. The blue columns measure the yield, how it's growing on that grassland block.
Un te ir no mūsu zālāju ekspertiem, kā pieaug raža vienā konkrētā laukā.
So 15 days of growth just before first cut.
Tad pirmam pļaumam 15 dienu laikā
was 4,700 kilos of dry matter per hectare.
Pieauga šī masa par 4,700 kilogramiem sausnas uz hektāru.
So that is 313 kilos of dry matter per hectare per day.
I'm sorry. Tas ir 313 kilogrami sausnas uz hektāru dienā.
We agree? All right. Perfect. Let's move on. So it's really, really quick growth in those 15 days. So almost 5,000 dry matter, kilos of dry matter in the last 15 days before the first cut.
Tātad 15 dienu laikā gan arī 5 tonnas pieaug masa uz lauka, saušnas tonnas. Zaļā masā tas būtu reiz 4 vismaz, reiz 5. Reiz 5 tas būtu, cik? 25 tonnas 2 nedēļās izauga zāle uz lauka. We calculated how much it would be in fresh.
Yes, okay.
25 tons about.
Probably so, yeah. How does it match in Latvian? Do you have less or
Vai mums
more,
ir mērījumi par to, cik strauji aug? I have measured myself 1 ton of fresh grass per day.
Per day?
It's
Yes.
about
All right, okay. So it shouldn't be that different than there. Okay.
it's about 200 kilos per day.
Okay, well then, yeah, depending, of course, the dry matter here. So the same thing here, the quick growth you can see in pictures. So this picture on the right is just before the first cut.
Pa labi bilde ir pirms pirmā pļāvuma
And on the left, 4 weeks before.
un pa kreisi 4 nedēļas iepriekš.
So the amazing effect of those bright summer nights in the early summer.
Un tas ir efekts no tām gaišajām vasaras naktīm.
Right, and because it's a very quick growth, so maybe partly because of this reason, farmers need data when is really the right time to go, especially do the first cut, so they take samples.
Un par cik tā zāle aug ļoti strauji, saimnieki grib zināt, kad labākais laiks viņu novākt, un tādēļ arī ņem paraugus pirms pļaušanas, īpaši priekš pirmā pļāvuma.
So here you can see it's a Valio statistics data again, that nowadays Finnish farmers, these are dairy farmers, they take on average 9.4 samples per farm per year, silage samples.
Vidēji saimniecība katra noņem 9,4 skābarības paraugus gadā.
They are mostly silage samples from the silo, but about, I'd say, if there are 9 samples, 6 of them are from the silo, rest of them, 3 or 4, are from the grasslands before making the cut.
Un kas ir interesanti, kopā ir 9 šie paraugi vidēji, bet 6 apmēram ir no skābarības kaudzēm, kā skābarība, un 3 līdz 4 ir kā zāle pirms pirmā pļāvuma.
So you can see that farmers are more and more interested what they're actually getting from their grasslands, because nowadays they take in 9 samples, and 2007 it was only 2 samples per farm per year.
Tā kā Somijā saimnieki ļoti interesēti, kāda ir kvalitāte, jo mēs redzam, ka šis skābrības analizēto paraugu skaita pieaugums pa gadiem.
All right, but let's move on to the next section of my presentation. So I have a short examples of our pilot farms. We had 6 pilot farms in Finland in this project.
Tagad par šo projektu runāsim. Šajā projektā mums bija 6 pilotsaimniecības Somijā.
All right, so the first example are these brothers. They have a bee farm, about 900 bulls, a finishing unit.
Tad pirmā saimniecība ir 2 brāļu saimniecība, kas nodarbojas ar buļļu nobarošanu.
So about 170 hectares of silage ground.
Ap 170 hektāriem zālāju.
So if we talk about the changes, what kind of changes actually were made at the pilot farms during this piloting season? So one of the changes with these guys is that they incorporated more legumes into their crop rotation.
Un kas mainījās projekta laikā konkrēti šiem 2 saimniekiem, viņi ieviesa savā zālaugu sistēmā vairāk tauriņziežus.
Because they wanted to increase protein self-sufficiency and improve soil structure.
Tādēļ, ka viņi gribēja palielināt proteīna pašnodrošinājumu un uzlabot augsnes struktūru.
So what we do there was that we established 3 different blocks of grasslands.
Mēs šeit ierīkojām 3 dažādus lauciņus.
And the brothers, they wanted to have very high share of legumes, so like 50% of alfalfa of the mixture, and rest of them was grass species.
Viņi gribēja ļoti daudz tauriņziežu, pat līdz 50%, lucernas un pārējos stiepžzāles.
And the other 2 blocks had 50% of different kind of clovers and 50% of different kind of grasses.
Un citos blokos atkal bija 50% āboliņš un pārējais bija stiepžzāles.
So with alfalfa, it didn't turn out that well. It pretty much died after the first season.
Ar lucernu neizdevās tik labi, viņa bija gājusi bojā pēc pirmās ziemas.
But the clovers did much better.
Bet ja runā par āboliņu, tad āboliņi izdzīvoja daudz labāk.
So in Finland and for this farm as well, the experts' advice was to use a little bit more moderate share of legumes, about 25-30% of the whole mixture.
Bet kopumā Somijā saimnieki tauriņziežus ievieš nedaudz mazākā īpatsvarā, 25%.
And continue to use clovers, but maybe instead of alfalfa, I don't know if you have this in Latvia, medica glyphosata. It's a little bit more modest than alfalfa.
Tad šie tauriņzieži ir ne tikai āboliņš lucerna, bet tas ir vanagnadziņš. Tad tā ir dzeltenā lucerna, kas nedaudz ir izturīgāka par parasto lucernu.
And the winter tolerance is a bit better for Finnish conditions than alfalfa.
Un tieši ziemcietība viņai ir labāka.
Right, but like I said, clovers did a bit better. I just show you a little video here. It should be running about that how we saw the effect of clovers already on the 2nd year after the establishment year.
Un te ir neliels video, kā mēs varam redzēt, cik āboliņš jau nākamajā gadā deva labāku efektu.
So here you have only grasses here on the left.
Te ir tikai stiepžzāles.
And on the right-hand side, about 50% of clovers and the rest was grasses.
Un tur otrā pusē ir 50% āboliņš un pārējais stiepžzāles.
So where there are only grasses, the soil is much firmer. It looks a bit more compacted. And yeah.
Tad augsne tajā daļā, kur bija tikai stiepžzāles, bija diezgan blīva.
And then next you see the hole in where the clovers, so you see the soil particles are much rounder.
Un jūs redzat, tur, kur ir āboliņš, tur augsnes tā kārta ir irdenāka.
And there is more air space.
Tur ir vairāk gaisa.
So it's good when you have better soil structure. Also the smell was, I want to say this, the smell was much better where the clover was.
Un tas, ko āboliņš darīja, ir uzlaboja augsnes struktūru, un augsnes smarža bija daudz labāka.
So we want this good, better soil structure because it means that also the soil will warm up quicker in the springtime.
Un kāpēc ir svarīgi labāka augsnes struktūra? Tas dos to, ka augsne pavasarī uzsils ātrāk.
And it allows the biological nitrogen fixing also to start a little bit earlier in the springtime.
Un arī pavasarī slāpekļa piesaisti uzsāksies ātrāk.
And this way we can maybe also adjust, maybe decrease fertilization and minimize the risk of nutrient runoff.
Un tas ir tas, ka mēs varam samazināt mēslojumu, pārskatīt mēslojumu devas un samazināt šo noteci, tad barības vielu nonākšanu ūdeņos.
So one change these farmers also made is that we made a lot of crop walks with them. So we actually observed the soils with them. So now they're making more regular crop walks and estimating, this is important with legumes, to really estimate it, that have the legumes survived, especially after winter.
Mēs šajā saimniecībās projekta laikā veicām ļoti daudz lauku apskates, tieši augsnes izpēti, kā izskatās.
And you need to do the follow-up during the growing season as well.
Un visā veģetācijas periodā mēs ik pa laikam veicām šīs pārbaudes apskates.
So you can decrease the fertilization and save money there if you can actually see that the legumes have not disappeared, they're working properly.
Un tad, ja mēs augsnē redzam, augsnes struktūrā, saknē redzam, ka tauriņzieži aug, tauriņzieži uzlabo augsnes struktūru, mēs varam pārskatīt arī mēslojumu devas.
And also they started to use the last sentence, inoculated clover seed, just to reinforce this biological nitrogen fixing.
Un zemnieki ir sākuši izmantot arī āboliņu sēklas, kas jau ir apstrādātas ar nitrogīnu, ar šīm baktērijām, kas ātrāk uzsāk slāpekļa piesaisti.
Right, very briefly, so one change, what they did and what other Finnish pilot farms did as well, that they're taking now more extensive soil samples, which also reveal micronutrient levels.
Un projektā mēs daudz ņēmām arī augsnes paraugus, kuros analizējām minerālvielu daudzumu, mikroelementus tieši analizējām.
So I understand it costs to make more extensive samples of micronutrients, and that's when farmers normally take just the basic ones. But quite many, actually, almost all of our pilot farmers, we found out quite severe deficiencies of micronutrients in the soil samples.
Jo parasti mikroelementu analīzes ir dārgas, tādēļ saimnieki ļoti reti, kad veic tās, bet šajā projektā mēs to izdarījām un atklājām dažādus šos rādītājus.
So for example, this farm, they changed now, they're using fertilizer with some sulfur in it because we found out very high deficiencies of sulfur.
Piemēram, šī saimniecība vairāk tagad pielieto mēslojamā sēru, jo augsnē mēs atradām sēru deficītu.
And sulfur can negatively affect the protein formation, and this was one of the farmers' target to increase the protein self-sufficiency.
Sērs ir atbildīgs par proteīna veidošanos, par aminoskābju veidošanos, un tas arī bija saimnieku mērķis paaugstināt proteīna pašnodrošinājumu.
So kind of small stuff, you would say, but even though quite important stuff when you're actually starting to think the big picture.
It kā viena sīka vienība, bet tas uzlabojot šo elementu, mēs iegūstam daudz labāku iznākumu.
Right. So if we move on, what else this farm changed in their practices? So we talk a little bit about silage making process. So we sent our expert to the farm in September 2023 during the third cut to observe the silage making process.
Un kas vēl šajā saimniecībā izdevās, tad viņi veica izmaiņas skābarības gatavošanā. Mēs aizsūtījām ekspertu skābarības uz septembrī, tad, kad saimnieks pļāva trešo pļāvumu.
So basically the change was that they are now fine-tuning the silage making process because they had a problem that the third card was always a bit too wet. They wanted to increase the dry matter content.
Un viņi veica izmaiņas sagatavošanā skābarības, tīpaši trešais pļāvums bija problemātisks, jo tas sanāca pārāk mitrs.
So now they're making the third card a bit earlier in September, and they also purchased this wider rake so they can make more swats in a shorter period of time. So this will allow a little bit longer pre-wilting period time for the grass to wilt.
Viņi iegādājās platāku grābekli, kas deva daudz lielāku ātrumu pie sagrābšanas, un tas atļāva arī nedaudz ilgāk apvītināt.
And therefore also now it's higher dry matter and less effluent, which was also one of the targets in this project, to have a little bit less effluent.
Un viņi ieguva rezultātā skābarību ar augstāku sausnes saturu un mazāk noteksulas, kas ir arī projekta mērķis.
So something else changes. I know the video is very dark, try to make most of it. So how they're unloading the fodder at the silo. So basically they have a forage wagon which is unloading. It's quite even the layer. That's good.
Un viņi izmainīja arī to, kā viņi ieved šo masu bedrē, tad skābarības tvertnē, viņi cenšas viņu izdalīt vienmērīgi.
But the expert recommended that they would now start to unload it on the other side of the silo. More on the sides of the silo, not in the middle.
Un viņi eksperts ieteica, ka šo masu vajadzētu vairāk izbērt tuvāk tvertnes sienām.
So for example, that first 3 wagons would unload on this side.
Tad pirmās 3 piekabes šo zāles masu izbēra tuvāk sienai.
And the guys who are compacting could easily do their work on the other side on that time when they are unloading.
Tie, kas blietēja, viņi varēja strādāt gar to otru malu.
So the idea is to speed up the process and also allow better compaction.
Tas mērķis bija pātrināt šo blietēšanas jaudu un labāku blietējumu panākt.
And another system, they had this normal, traditional trailer wagon unloading. So you can see when it's unloading, it's pretty much dipping everything on a one same big heap.
Un tad, kad viņi veida ar parastām piekabēm, tad šī masa tika izbērta pārsvarā vienā lielā čupā.
So that should be fixed, more even layer and on the sides of the silo.
Tā kā tas būtu jālabo vairāk slāņu tieši gar tvertnes sienām.
Last one, change at the silo. So they're spreading it with this kind of telescopic handler, which have a loader bucket in the end.
Un arī vēl viena lieta tika izmainīta. Viņš šo zāles masu izkliedēja ar kausu, ar teleskopiskā iekrāvēja kausu.
So they have now changed the loader head into a fork.
Un viņi tagad šo kausu nomainīja pret dakšām.
Right, because it's more efficient, it's better way to spread the grass mass.
Un tas ir ar dakšām izkliedēti daudz efektīvāk.
And also it was recommended that instead of reversing and spreading the grass, he should be more concentrating on pushing the forage material forward.
Un vēl viena nianse, tā vietā, lai šo zāles čupu izlīdzinātu atpakaļgaitā braucot, viņam ieteica labāk līdzināt braucot uz priekšu.
But overall, a big issue I shouldn't say that. I'm making our farmers look bad here, but I want to be honest. So, of course, one thing we feel that in Finland, what we need to do better is putting more weight on the compaction equipment at the silo.
Un tas, kas mums Somijā, ko mēs jūtam, ka mums vajag uzlabot, ir vairāk tonnas uzlikt uz bedres, kas blietē.
So whether it is this kind of a compactor, silage compactor, or more efficient loader to actually spread the material, or, you know, when you're spreading the material, but we are lacking this kind of equipment, and there should be more weight.
Tā kā mums šādi agregāti pietrūkst, un uz tiem vajadzētu lielākas tonnas.
So these pictures are not from Finland, from our farms.
Tad šīs bildes nav no Somijas, no mūsu saimniecībām.
Some are doing all right, no worries. But in general, we should definitely in Finland should pay more attention to this factor. And I think it's a reason that the farmers, dairy farmers especially, are getting bigger. So there's a lot more material coming to the silo. They are not used to it. So we don't have enough good of equipment to do the compaction at the silo.
Tātad smalcināšanas jauda ir liela, līdz ar to masa diezgan strauji ienāk iekšā šajā skābarības tvertnē, bet mums pietrūks šīs blietēšanas jaudas. Blietēšanas jaudas, vienmēr sakot, netiek līdzi.
So this is definitely what we need to pay attention in the future, but of course we understand also it's a matter of cost as well.
Tas mums ir jāņem vērā, lai uzlabotu kvalitāti, bet, protams, tas ir saistās arī ar izmaksām.
But another example I'd like to share you briefly is this organic farmer. He has sheep and suckler cows.
Tad nākošā saimniecība mūsu projektā ir šis saimnieks. Viņam ir bioloģiskā saimniecība, aitas un zīdītāji govis.
So he's farming next to the river, so very important to prevent and minimize all the nutrient runoff.
Viņš saimnieko upes krastos, un tāpēc viņam ir svarīgi, lai nenotiktu barības mēslojumu līdzekļu noplūde ūdeņos.
So the change that he did in this project is that he established herbal lays for better nutrient efficiency and soil structure. Herbal lays, so herbal grasslands.
Viņš projekta laikā izveidoja tādas zālaugu slejas. Tas pat nav zālaugu, bet kā nosaukt? Varētu būt ārstniecības augu. Ieviesa, vienmēr sakot, dažādas zālīšu sugas.
So basically the idea here is that maybe this is a potential option, especially on areas where you use manure, because chicory, as one of the herbal plants, can catch phosphorus quite efficiently.
Piemēram, tas varētu noderīgs būt tad, kad tiek lietoti kūtsmēsli. Piemēram, cigoriņš ir ļoti efektīvs slāpekļa piesaistē.
So this would minimize the risk of nutrient runoff.
Un tas samazinātu barības vielu nonākšanu.
So I'm not going to repeat this, but if you want to say that is the mixture that they used in this farm, so chicory and plantain were the herbal plants, and then you can see the rest of the mixture there.
Un jūs redzat šī sastāva, šī maisījuma sastāvu, tur ir cigoriņš, kas tas otrs? Ceļteka, sarkanās āboliņš, tas bija vēl kaut bastardāboliņš, timotiņš, pļavas audzene un pļavas skarene.
All right, and he tried different kind of establishment style, but the best one was without a nurse crop, because the nurse crop had a shadowing effect which affected a little bit the growth. Yes, like a cover crop, yeah, when you establish it, yes.
Tad vēl viena niansē, šis zālājs tika ierīkots bez virsauga.
So it was established in 2023.
Tas tika ierīkots 2023. gadā.
And here you see the first harvesting year in May 2024.
Un jūs redzat gads, 24. gada maijs.
It was really, you guys, you probably remember as well, I think it's the same here, it was really dry spring and summer.
Tas bija ļoti sauss pavasaris.
And so you see the pictures below. Chicory did actually pretty well in that very dry soil with its taproot.
Un cigoriņš ļoti labi jutās šajos apstākļos ar savu miedsakni. Pareizi.
And here is the same parcel in August. So there's 3 months between those pictures.
Un te ir 3 mēneši starp šīm bildēm, un kāds viņš izskatās augustā.
Right. So very briefly about this. So we, in this project, we purchased this kind of nutrient measurement device called SpectraCrop.
Projektā ietvaros mēs iegādājamies šādu ekspresu analizatoru.
So it was able to give us results of manganese and phosphorus levels of that plant in about 20 minutes.
Un ar šo ierīci mēs augā varējām noteikt ātri mangānu un fosforu.
So definitely when we compared different kind of species, we discovered that chicory was able to kind of catch the nutrients most efficiently.
Un tad, kad mēs analizējām dažādas sugas, mēs secinājām, ka cigoriņš spēja ļoti labi uzņemt barības vielas.
And also talking about nutrients very briefly, so also in this pilot farm, we discovered quite severe lack of manganese. So what they changed was also they started to do Mantrax spraying, so spraying manganese in the field.
Vēl mēs šajā saimniecībā ar šo analizatoru konstatējām mangāna deficītu, un saimniecība lietoja mangāna preparātus.
And actually, I think if we had 6 pilot farms, I think 4 or 5 did this same change because we discovered manganese deficiency.
Un no 6 pilotu saimniecībām 4 bija šīs mangāna trūkums.
And just, if you have soil compaction, especially topsoil compaction, try chicory. That was our expert's advice. So when she observed the fields, so they didn't have that kind of same topsoil compaction if there was chicory there.
Un, ja bija problēmas jums, kad augsnes virskārte ļoti sablīvējusies, tad cigoriņš ir viens no tiem, kas var uzlabot šo augsnes struktūru, blīvējumu.
So maybe these herbal plants could be an option in your mixture, but at least in Finland, small amounts in the mixture because they also have these problems with winter hardiness.
Un šis cigoriņš ir ieteicams tikai nepārāk lielos daudzumos, jo viņam ir arī grūtības pārciest ziemu.
And also from the second harvest year onwards, they form these bitter flowering stems. So, it decreases the palatability. So, it needs to be grazed or mowed early enough.
Un cigoriņš arī, ja viņš ir ļoti daudz, tad viņš veido šos stiebrus, uz kuriem ir ziedi, un līdz ar to samazinās sagramojamības rādītāji.
Right, we're getting closer to the end. So from this picture, this is basically the same what I told, but I just want to, so here you have plantain, if you're,
Šeit ir
and the chicory there on the left.
Un tur ir cigoriņš.
So this picture is from Netherlands from last year.
Tā ir no Nīderlandes pagājušā gadā, tā bilde.
So our agriculture expert attended the European Grassland Federation's event there.
Mūsu eksperte bija Eiropas pļaukopības federācijas kongresā Nīderlandē, kur bija arī acīmredzot mūsu eksperte.
You were probably there. Yes, indeed. So these 2 plants were kind of most discussed, most featured in the event.
Tad šie 2 augi tika ļoti daudz aprunāti tur.
Right, but my presentation is coming to its end. So basically here as the kind of the final words, when we think about our pilot farm activities in Finland, actually quite many challenges were related to soil structure and soil health.
Projektā laikā mūsu daudz aktivitātes un mūsu uzmanība tika pievērsta augsnes struktūrai.
So our advice is though, no matter what the style, please observe your soils, smell them, dig a hole and see how your soils are doing.
Tad ieteikums pētiet arī savas augsnes, izrociet tādu nelielu bedrību, izpētiet saknes, pasmaržojiet.
I think some Latvians can even recognize them in the video done from last summer during the Finnish tour.
Tā ir mūsu grupa, ka mēs bijām kopā ar Igaunijas kolēģiem vasarā Somijā.
Very good. Okay, let's take the last Latvian, is it? Yeah, have a good smell there. There you go. And here we go. Okay, but I'd like to hugely thank you for this opportunity to come here and share our experiences, and extremely special thanks to our real agriculture experts, Sara and Anu. So unfortunately, they were unable to be here today, but they were a big help in building up this presentation.
Tad paldies jums par uzmanību, ka ļāvāt padalīties ar pieredzi. Gribu izteikt īpašu paldies mūsu augkopības ekspertēm Anu un Sārai, kuras šodien te nevarēja ierasties, bet viņi palīdzēja man izveidot šo prezentāciju.
Was it paldies?
Paldies, jā.
Paldies. There you go. Thank you so much.
Kītos.
Kītos, jā. Paldies, Anu. Vai ir kāds jautājums?
Yes, feel free to make any questions if you want. If I'm unable to accommodate your question, I'm happy to revert it to our agriculture experts, but please go on. You can give it a go.
Ja es nevarēšu atbildēt, es pāradresēšu mūsu ekspertēm.
Redzēju, ka jūs esat ļoti daudz analīzes taisījuši skābarībai caur Valio. Vai tur ir Somijā noteikts, ka obligāti jātaisa šādas analīzes, vai arī tas ir brīvprātīga zemnieku izvēle?
If you make so many analyses, is it a voluntary process or you have some obligations to make analysis, or who is paying for these analysis?
Right, yes. So if you are a producer to Valio Dairy or a dairy farmer, so they only analyze silage samples from dairy farmers okay. So
Valio veic analīzes tikai saviem piena piegādātājiem.
So the price is very, very low. I'm not sure if it has even been free, but I think now it's just about 10 euros or some per sample, so it's very kind of affordable for the farmer.
Cena nav augsta, es domāju kaut kādi 10 eiro, diezgan tāda pieejama cena saimniekiem.
And for example, if you take the samples before the cut, if you want to determine when it's the right time to do the cut, you get the result in 2 days around.
Un ja jūs noņemat zāles paraugu, tad, lai zinātu to laiku, kad tā zāle jāpļauj, atbildi jūs saņemat 2 dienu laikā.
So quite many farmers, before the first cut, that's the most crucial one, they take maybe two crass samples on that week, before they estimate that they're planning to do the cut.
Viņi apmēram, katrs saimnieks gandrīz veic zāles analīzi pirms pļaušana, apmēram 2 zāles paraugus aizsūta. And farmers are doing themselves, nobody's...
yes, they have these, like I have the picture of the bag.
Voluntary event.
Sorry?
Voluntary event.
It is voluntarily. They are not forced to do that. They can do it.
Tad pilnīgi brīvprātīgs pasākums šos paraugus ņemt. Tas nav ne ar ko piespiests.
Yeah, thank God we're not a totalitarian country yet in Finland, so they have a choice if they want to take silage samples or not. But it's easy because they take the sample and they leave it next to their milk tank, and the milk lorry comes and picks it up. So they don't have to be there. It just gets delivered, they get the result in their email.
Un ļoti laba sistēma, viņš šo paraugu paņem un noliek blakus piena dzesētājiem, tā kā atbrauc pienu šoferis, viņš paņem pienu un paņem arī paraudziņu.
Nezinu, vai tas bija tas, ko tu gribēji sagaidīt, bet, protams, kā mēs visi saprotam, nekas jau nav tur tā brīvprātīgi, un cik es zinu no savas puses, tad Valio ir ārkārtīgi interesanta sistēma uzbūvēta, kur tālāk uz šiem rādītājiem viņi rēķina CO2 pēdu, Un līdz ar to katrs lauksaimnieks ir ieinteresēts, lai būtu maksimāli daudz par viņu datu, lai viņš tālāk var redzēt, kāds ir šis te CO2 radīšanas efekts. Tāpēc arī ir tik ārkārtīgi liela interese, jo viņi līdzīgi kā Arla, kas ir otrs milzīgais kooperatīvs, ir izveidojuši veselu savu tādu milzīgu uzskaites sistēmu. Bet vēl ir viens jautājums.
Kāds ir pieļaujamais slāpekļa mēslojuma daudzums tīrvielā Somijā?
What is the allowed fertilization of nitrogen? Kilograms nitrogen per hectare.
How much?
How much
In
is
Craftslands?
is allowed?
Is allowed?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez, and I was asked this question, was it 1 month ago, and I already forgot. I don't want to lie here, because I'm going to ask first that how much is it in Latvia? Let me see if we're in the same. What is it in Latvia?
Cik ir Latvijā?
Tātad mums ir tie 170 kg tīrvielā, kas ir no organiskā mēslojuma, kas ir tā kā visām dalībvalstīm pilnīgi vienāds.
No organiskā vai no kopējais slāpeklis?
170 no kūtsmēsliem iestrādāmais. Plus Latvijā, gluži tāpat kā graudaugos, mēs varam atkarībā no plānotās ražas mēslot arī papildus ar minerālu mēsliem. Tas ir atļauts. Žigli jāapskatās mūsu MK noteikumos, bet manuprāt bija tie 210, kas ir maksimālā robeža pie attiecīgās ražas sasniegšanas. Bet es tūlīt pārčikošu.
Did you come into a conclusion? What is it in Latvia? No? 250? No?
Jā.
Sorry?
Yeah, 170
170
kilos from organic fertilizer, and then additionally, I don't know exactly, it's the same as you.
Yeah.
But I think
I can definitely, let's agree that I'm going to find you the answer. I don't want to lie.
200.
But what I can tell you is that in this project, for example, we did a survey about the issues that farmers don't like in the regulation related to silage making.
Es varu pastāstīt tikai par vienu aptauju, ko mēs vaicājām saimniekiem, kas viņiem nepatīk, kur viņi ir ierobežoti skābarības ražošanas procesā.
So the most common answer was that if you're an intensive grassland farmer, the current phosphorus and nitrogen fertilization levels are not enough because the yields are getting so much of those nutrients that we can see that the soils are starting to deplete out of especially phosphorus in Finland.
Un tas, ko saimnieki saka, tie, kas intensīvi audzē zālais, viņi saka, ka atļautās mēslošanas normas ar slāpekli un fosforu ir par zemu, jo faktiski ražas tiek vāktas daudz lielākas un kas noved pie augstas noplicināšanās.
Jā, ja drīkst pakomentēt, Igauniem un Somiem ir šī te ļoti striktā fosfora limita ierobežojums. Uz slāpeklī tur varētu būt pat līdz tādām niansēm, kad nitrāti jūtīgā teritorija vai nē, atļautās vienības, bet attiecībā uz fosforu tie ir tie nelaimīgie 40 kg. Un tie, kas kaut ko saprot no mēslošanas, saprot, ka tā ir vienkārši kritiska atzīme. Latvijā pagaidām, pateicoties Valsts auga aizsardzības dienesta veiktajām analīzēm, mēs esam spējuši kolēģiem pierādīt, ka uz mūsu lauksaimniecības zemēm šādu fosfora ierobežojumu nevajadzētu attiecināt. Līdz šim mums tas ir izdevies. Acīm redzot, mūsu kolēģi ir bijuši labticīgāki. Acīm redzot, nav bijis tik ļoti daudz analīžu vai pamatojumu. Un igauņu kolēģi aizgāja, bet diemžēl arī Igaunijā viņi stāstīja jums precīzi tieši to pašu. Jā, vēl kāds jautājums? Jā, jautājumi ir tā kā beigušies, bet krājiet jautājums, jo teiksim Annai milzīgi paldies, un Ievai milzīgi paldies par tulkošanu.
Kītos.
Yeah, big hand for the translator. It's not an easy work. I did that quite often in my past as well, so I'm not envious of your work right now. It's hard work. Give a big hand still for our translator.